the more common situations that we have is somebody will walk into the shop and they'll say, oh, my violin or my son's or daughter's violin isn't sounding quite the way it's supposed to, and so we're worrying about what's wrong. Is there something that's broken? So here's a violin that has just come in, and one of the first things we'll do is we'll pluck the strings, and they're ringing nicely. So we know that that part of the adjustment is probably correct. Then we'll try tapping on things gently to look for open seams. That seems like it's okay, even though there's a crack in the top that's been closed. Then we start tapping on the different parts. So this is the tailpiece, and that's a buzzing sound. It's not very musical, and when we hear that, we know that there's something that's touching somewhere, which means that when they're trying to play music, this is going to start rattling along with it, and that's not going to be helping things. So the first thing we do is we check for proximity between the chin rest and the tailpiece, and if you look very carefully, you'll see that there's that the chin rest has slid so that it's not seated in the center anymore, and there's no longer an even space around the tailpiece. So that means that this is touching. So all that's going to happen is we're going to have to loosen this up. My chin rest key. Then it's going to move over slightly, giving it some more room. We can test it. See, no rattle anymore, and then we just tighten it back up again. That's one of the more simple problems that we see with instruments buzzing, but it's certainly one of the more common ones. So again, we're often presented with instruments that are not sounding right. And in this case, there's something loose. Well, the thing about violins is there are parts that you can't see that are very important, and they have to be positioned correctly. In this case, what's happened, nothing's really broken in the sense of an instrument needing huge repairs, but a very important part of the instrument, the sound post, which is inside and held in place by the mere tension of the strings. If it's fit correctly, it shouldn't fall over. In this case it has, so the sound post has fallen down and it's loose inside the instrument, and the instrument won't sound more like a mandolin than a violin. The instrument won't sound correctly if that's not in place. So I'm just going to quickly maybe back it out a little bit, get the sound post out. Once I have it on the oh, wow, okay then. There's other things in here too. That's realistic. So my student was going to say, gee, it took him 2 tries instead of 3, or instead of 1. Okay. So what you're seeing here, this is the sound post, and it is supposed to be inside the violin, wedged between the curved top and the curved back, over on the treble side, the E string side of the bridge, just behind the bridge. So in order to put it inside the instrument, we actually have a special tool, and oddly enough, it's called a sound post setter, and it takes spiking it on the sound post setter, and then we have to put it inside the sound post, inside the violin, and set it up so that it's in exactly the right position. If we don't get it perfect the first time, we can always adjust it. We don't usually do this in front of people, but it helps if you know what we're doing, so that you're aware that, gee, if the sound post comes out, it can be fixed without major problems. Now, generally, what I'll tell you is that for all instruments, student instruments and professional, if the sound post is cut correctly and fits the instrument, and there hasn't been a major change in humidity or temperature, that sound post should pretty much stay even when the strings are off. Different instruments will flex more than others, so it's not a 100% rule, but in general, if it's fit correctly, it'll stay in place even if you take a string off. you as a player don't generally want to take more than one string off at a time for a variety of reasons having to do with adjustments. So that's what happens when the sound post is loose.